Hello again, welcome to the Katy Sissine Show, addressing the indoctrination of the American nation. And to all my viewers out there, remember you can follow me at Katy, FYNTV on Twitter. You can also email me with comments and suggestions at katy@fetchyournews.com. So please do so at your convenience. That would be greatly appreciated. So in the last show, we were talking about John Kerry, Secretary of State John Kerry, and his comments on why the U.S. decided to abstain from the vote in the resolution instead of vetoing the resolution, which would have been in Israel's favor, according to their Prime Minister Netanyahu. We also went over some comments from Netanyahu and how he stated that friends do not take friends to the Security Council, and that basically Kerry and the Obama administration, well, the Obama administration has really struck a chord with Israel. In 2011, this same exact resolution the U.S. vetoed. For some reason, Obama now feels it's appropriate to let the resolution pass, for whatever reason that is. And we also went over the tweet between Trump and Netanyahu and how Trump reached out to Netanyahu. He bypassed the media and went straight to Twitter, and Netanyahu replied and was very pleased with Trump's comments, and it was a very amicable exchange and very positive for us Trump supporters who wish to make America great again. And we also discussed Samantha Power's comments and her defense, or lack thereof. She's U.S. ambassador, permanent U.S. representative of the UN, and her defense or lack thereof defending the Obama administration and why they chose to let this resolution pass. And now, straight from UN.org, we've got some more information on the resolution, and it's titled, Israel's settlements have no legal validity, constitute flagrant violation of international law, Security Council reaffirms. It's funny how they like to call out how they try to call out Israel establishing settlements in a nonviolent way, establishing settlements into eastern Jerusalem as being a flagrant violation of international law. But yet they don't want to call out Palestine and the Fatah, am I mistaken? The Fatah terrorist organization, and I'm sorry if I got that name wrong, under Abba for terrorist acts that Abba has failed to stop against Israel. Jerusalem is the holiest city in the world for Judaism. That is a fact. It's the former location of Jewish temples on Temple Mount in the capital of the ancient Israeli kingdom. There is no doubt historically that Jerusalem belongs to Israel. So why is the U.S., a democracy, calling out the only democracy in the Middle East for establishing settlements in their holy land, when it was basically arbitrarily somehow divided between the two? And that's a whole nother story. So the Security Council reaffirmed that afternoon within their meeting that their establishment of settlements in Palestinian territory occupied since 1967, including East Jerusalem, which they're establishing on, which is the whole problematic issue, has no validity, repeating the title, constituting flagrant violation under the international law. But what about terrorism by the Palestinians? Is that not in violation of international law? And if we really think about it, if we really put things in perspective, Jerusalem belongs to Israel. So why is this even up for discussion? There should have been a resolution telling, that force Palestine out of Jerusalem, as this is Israel's holy city. That's it. It is a Jewish holy city. Why would Muslims care to live in the Jewish holy city? Maybe out of spite, but it's surely not out of their sacred beliefs, because it's a Jewish site. It absolutely makes no sense. Why are we siding with non-democratic Arab states over the only democracy in the UN? And we see Netanyahu right there in the corner of the screen passionately speaking about the resolution that was passed. And he thinks it's absolutely absurd. Netanyahu, and I'll state again, wanted to put out there after Kerry's eloquent speech, friends don't take friends to the Security Council. Netanyahu has expressed that bringing this issue to the Security Council hinders the possibility of a two-state solution. When Mr. Kerry wanted to say that they're establishing settlements in their holy capital, and rightfully so, was a violation of the two-state solution. Kerry's hindering the two-state solution because he's empowering the Palestinians. He's empowering the terrorist groups. And it's the same terrorism that's been infiltrating all of Western Europe throughout the whole refugee crisis. We don't have the Jewish population. We don't have Jewish refugees coming in and raping women in Western Europe and running amok and just committing crime everywhere, all over the place. No, we see that in the Muslim community. The Muslim community is causing more conflict than any other religious group in the world right now. It's absolutely absurd that we would take their side over Israel. It's crazy. I can't even wrap my head around it. So David Keyes, spokesman for Benjamin Netanyahu, defended him as best he could on we're calling it the anti-Israel resolution because it is anti-Israel. And Keyes said that he has full confidence that the Obama administration, and this is not verbatim, but he has full confidence the Obama administration advocated the resolution. And he has full confidence it's accurate, it's ironclad evidence. Prime Minister Netanyahu has also reached out hundreds of times to Palestinian leader President Abbas to meet and talk about peace measures. But Abbas has refused. So in actuality, Abbas is hindering the peace. Palestine is hindering the peace. Why do they want to take the Jewish holy city? Netanyahu claims to have proof that Obama administration orchestrates Resolution 2334 over Israel expansion settlements on Palestinian territory. I'm going to side with Netanyahu on this, just as President-elect Trump did. The Obama administration initiated this resolution, they advocated its passing, and then the Obama administration denied it after the fact, after they decided, coincidentally, to abstain and let it pass. After vetoing it in 2011, it's not matching up. The things here, they're not matching up. And when we see these inconsistencies, this is how we know we're being lied to, people. This is how we know we're being misinformed. And that's what this show is all about. It's about investigating this misinformation that we've been fed, that we've been led to believe. Is the U.S. abstention empowering terrorism by Palestinians upon Israel by the Fatah under President Mahmoud Abbas? That's the question. Is the U.S. abstention empowering terrorism? Let's think about that. Absolutely. If you ask Katy Sissine on the Katy Sissine show, addressing the indoctrination of the American nation, the Obama administration is empowering terrorism and inciting more conflict by allowing this resolution to pass. I mean, thankfully, he's only got a few more weeks left because, what else is he planning to do? What other conflicts is he planning to stir up? Enough. When is enough enough? Here we go. Some more info from the UN.org. I would like to go over the background of the United Nations and how it all started and all came about and its evolution. And it just seems, as of recently, that the United Nations is gaining more notoriety by the media. And there's more talks of this one world order that's, advocated by the UN. The UN is a organization of global governance that seeks to create a consensus as to what constitutes human rights, what constitutes violations of human rights, along with the International Court of Justice that, decides and actually can judge and physically put people in prison for their wrongs that violate these human rights. And it's no joke. It's its own separate entity of government above the state level, above the federal level, above the United States. And the craziest thing of all is the United States funds the UN more than any other country in the world. But yet, it's not upholding democracy. By the US letting this resolution pass, or I should say, by the Obama administration letting this resolution pass, we are not upholding democracy. So why is an organization, the United Nations, founded upon the belief of democratic peace, that all nations should be democratic, not upholding and defending democracy with all the power that they have to do so? It's absolutely inconsistent with everything that they stand for. So we've discussed what the UN has stated and the inconsistencies as to how Kerry and the Obama administration want to say that these settlements are hindering a two-state solution, and we've already determined that that's absolutely ludicrous, because Jerusalem is the holiest city in the world for Judaism, and not for the Islam population, not for Muslims, but for the Jews. And we have to understand that is the whole problem behind all this bias against Israel. It is their city. That's it. And in the future, in the next episode, we're going to go over the Charter of the United Nations and what the United Nations has planned for the future. So stay tuned in to the Katy Sissine Show, addressing the indoctrination of the American nation.
What you're looking for in a vehicle, start your search at Schottenkirk Ford Jasper. We've simplified the process so you can move on to what matters, your family.
El Rey and Ellijay.
El Rey Mexican Restaurant.
Family owned and operated, and a local favorite for families, parties, and meetings.
Great prices.
Friendly service and delicious Mexican cuisine.
Patio dining available.
Come sing in Carlos's Cantina every Friday 9 to 1.
Eat in or take away.
Same location for 14 years. Open 7 days at the corner of Maddox Drive and 515. North Georgia's favorite Mexican cuisine. El Rey and Ellijay.
Hello, my name is Chad Watkins. I'm the manager at Larry's Body Shop. We are a family-owned and operated business and have been serving the North Georgia area since 1978. We are located at 1216 Progress Road in Ellijay, Georgia. Our shop specializes in collision repair, and we work with all major insurance companies. Larry's Body Shop is ICAR Gold, the highest role of training recognized by the collision repair industry. It is estimated that only 10% of collision shops meet these standards. Our shop consists of state-of-the-art equipment such as laser measurement system, down-drive spray booth, spot and MIG welding equipment. All of our paints are mixed on-site so that we can guarantee your paint to match every time. I know that having an accident can be a stressful event. We take pride in making sure our customers are satisfied with the repair of their vehicles. Our waiting area is clean and comfortable with free Wi-Fi and refreshing beverages. So if you're in an accident, stop by and see us at Larry's Body Shop.
What you gonna do with all that junk?
Pizza Hut makes great pizza, but they can't tell you what a gift it is. I can. They took a grilled cheese and combined it with stuffed crust pizza. To think, I almost wasn't here to try it.
How did
It's
you...
not important, Jen. What's important is that I watched the sunrise this morning. Then I got to stand in a room filled with this pizza. And later I'll stare at the ocean. Or maybe I'll learn Russian. Or listen to jazz. Or try my hand at needlework. Or open a door for a beautiful woman. Or read a human interest story, or make dessert wine. Or ride a wild horse. Or experiment with watercolors. Eat every slice like it's your last. Especially you, Doug. Especially Doug, right? You care about Doug. The grilled cheese stuffed crust pizza. Proof that no one outpieces the Hut.
North Georgia Diamond is your source for diamonds. Come on in to view the area's largest selection of fine jewelry at North Georgia Diamond. All repairs and designs are done on site by our jewelers. And North Georgia Diamond has the lowest prices on loose diamonds. You can also sell your gold, silver, and coins at North Georgia Diamond between Walmart and Lowe's in East Ellijay. Locally owned by Bill and Allison Craig, North Georgia Diamond is your source for diamonds in North Georgia.
If you've been waiting for the biggest sale of the season, this is it. 20% off MSRP, plus huge bonus discounts at Days Chevrolet in Jasper. Now get a Silverado Crew LT from just $29,900 or a loaded new Malibu LT from just $19,900. Every 2016 Chevy up to 20% off MSRP, plus Days holiday bonus discounts. Find new roads at Days Chevrolet in Jasper.
Better days ahead, Days Chevrolet.
Merry Christmas.
Pizza Hut makes the best pizza in the entire universe, but they won't tell you that. I've been marooned on this planet for a while now. You are an impressive race. Your children know excellent hiding places. Your oceans aren't filled with lava. And you figured out how to combine a grilled cheese sandwich with a Pizza Hut pizza. Surely interstellar travel will soon follow. And then I can finally get back home. Round. Round like home. The grilled cheese stuffed crust pizza. Proof that no one outpizzas the Hut.
Hello, welcome back to the show. I would like to get into the UN and the Charter of the UN, but first, I would like to admit that I got a little carried away in the first segment of the episode, and I did state that the Palestinians have no right to the holy city Jerusalem, but I do have to acknowledge the Dome of the Rock, which is constructed where the former Israeli Holy Temple used to be, does hold very important religious significance to the Muslims. So we do have to credit that, and I will dive deeper into that issue next week. And we will discuss more in depth the issue between Israel and Palestine. So moving on to the United Nations. The name the United Nations, coined by U.S. President Franklin Delano Roosevelt, was first used in the declaration by the United Nations on January 1st of 1942 during the Second World War, when representatives of 26 nations pledged their governments to continue fighting together for the Axis powers. Against the Axis powers. There I go again. The following photos exhibit the growth of the UN since its establishment, thanks to a public slide share from LinkedIn. All other information, aside from my comments, are straight from the official site of the UN organization. And we have a photo here of the founding of the UN in 1945. It was founded by 51 states in 1945. Among the 51 founding members of 1945 are the 5 permanent members that are still the 5 permanent members to date of the Security Council, under the Charter of the Security Council, which is the entity of the United Nations that has primary responsibility for the maintenance of international peace and security. They're the head honchos. And the 5 permanent members are the United States, France, the Republic of China, then called the Union of Soviet Socialist Republics, Russia, the Russian Federation, France, and the UK, including Northern Ireland. And we can go on to these next following images and see the evolution of the UN and how it has spread around, and we can see the UN member states by 1949. By the end of the 1940s, the UN had grown to 59 members from the initial 51 founding members, so we have a growth of only 8 states. That's a slight growth, but it still counts for something. If we move on 10 years later, or 20 years later to 1969, we see a massive growth due to the course of decolonization, and the UN grew from 82 to 126 member states within 1 decade. We did skip over 1959, but that's okay because 1969 was a very drastic change from 1959, so I did want to highlight that most importantly. And those were several African nations, I believe 50 or so African nations that were decolonized and that did become states and member states of the UN within that time. And if we move on to 10 years later, by 1979, the UN grew to 152 member states during the 1970s. And let's bear in mind that the member states of the UN are supposed to be democratic, and obviously all these states that you see on the map here are not true democracies. Although they may call themselves democratic, they do not operate with the fundamental principles of democracy by the fundamental principles of democracy, which are freedom and equality indefinitely. And if we move on a little bit further ahead, UN member states by 1989, 159, and keep going over to 1999. After the collapse of the Soviet Union and split up, we gained of Yugoslavia, we gained 29 members to 188. And finally, in the 21st century, we have 193 members. And most recently, and very notably, Switzerland in 2002 and South Sudan in 2011. So nearly every country in the world, of the 200 some countries in the world, are member states of the United Nations. And they're supposed to be democracies, and they're supposed to be governed under this one world order, you could say, or globalized standard of what constitutes human rights and violations of human rights. And as we've discussed in prior episodes, this is problematic because it disregards the respective culture of each of these member states. And because of this, I believe that there's reasonable evidence, well, not because of this, but for other reasons as well, I believe there's reasonable evidence to believe that the UN seeks to dissolve culture entirely. And we can just figure this out solely based on Chapter 1, Article 1 of the UN Charter. Chapter 1, Article 1 of the UN Charter states the basic purposes of the United Nations. And the basic purposes are to maintain international peace and security, to take effective collective measures for the prevention and removal of threats to the peace. And we see the phrase "the peace" 1, 2, 3 times in the first paragraph of Chapter 1, Article 1. So the prevention and removal of threats to the peace. And it also says it's for the suppression of acts of aggression or other breaches of the peace. And where it also mentions peace, it says, and in conformity with the principles of justice and international law, which is a globalized standard for various different cultures that do not have the same traditions or beliefs, adjustment or settlement of international disputes or situations which might lead to the breach of peace will be settled within this international organization, the United Nations. They believe in equal rights, self-determination of peoples, and other appropriate measures, whatever those appropriate measures may be, to strengthen universal peace. Now, the question that you have to ask yourself is universal peace possible? Is that feasible? Are we going to be, is the human condition I mean, part of the human condition is lack of contentment. And to say that we can achieve universal peace is highly unrealistic. For everyone to be in harmony with all of these different cultures, with these thousands of different cultures that may be dissolved to hundreds within the next 25 years, we expect them to be in perfect harmony? It's very unrealistic. And they keep talking about the peace, the peace, the peace. What does that even mean? And most notably, they want to bring about the peace by peaceful means in conformity with the principles of justice and the international law. If you conform to the principles of justice and international law, we can achieve universal peace, says the United Nations, Chapter 1, Article 1 of its charter. And then it goes on to say, to achieve international cooperation in solving international problems of an economic, social, cultural, or humanitarian character, and in promoting and encouraging respect for human rights defined by the UN. Those human rights are defined by the UN, not your individual member state, and for fundamental freedoms for all without distinction as to race, sex, language, or religion. So everyone, no matter their race, sex, language, or religion, will all have the same standards. And it's to be the center for harmonizing the actions of nations and the attainment of these common ends. Well, how can all these different nations in a realist world, in a system of in a world that is actually in anarchy, in a state of anarchy, how are we supposed to attain the same exact common ends? Let's think about that. Now, I would like to show this nice photo of Trump right here. Because he is a realist candidate that seeks to make America great again by upholding realist principles that will put our nation first. And he upholds the defense of our nation state by looking out for our security and our power first. There are two types of realists. First, let's go over theories of international relations. We have realism, we have liberalism, and we have idealism or constructivism, you could say. Now, I would call Trump a realist, and I would call myself a realist. And if you're a conservative, you're either a realist or a neo-realist. And the basis of realism is that states are the main actors, and the main objective of states is to compete for power and security and to secure themselves and their borders for the sake of their people and the prosperity of their people and their state as a whole. They do this by way of military power and also formally with diplomacy. And liberalism is quite different. It values cooperation over security. And then we have idealism and constructivism that says that things are ever changing all the time. Things are constantly in motion. And they do not believe that the states are the main actors. They believe it comes more down to the individual and that things change on a daily basis. Whereas realism and liberalism are on two opposite sides of the spectrum. Idealism and constructivism, they admit to not knowing anything at all. We could be realist, we could be liberal, but there's no true definition. Everything's changing constantly every day with every individual. Stay tuned in for the next episode as we analyze international relations theories on the Katy Sissine Show. And please follow me at Katy FYNTV. Thank you.